Today I'm going to talk about humility. It's taken me a while to make this video because out of all the principles in the Adventure Builders Club, I think humility is the most misunderstood and neglected in our current culture. And a lot of people have the idea that humility has to do with humiliation, but it has nothing to do with being humiliated. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite. It's very easy to humiliate an arrogant person. In fact, they often humiliate themselves. But a humble person, it's very difficult to humiliate them. Now, I've written down some points because I'm a little sick and my head is swimming, and this will help me remember them. Always look to yourself for blame. Now, so when there's a problem and you're in any way involved with it, the first person you should look to for solutions is yourself. Now, arrogant people point the finger at everyone else, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with these people. It was your fault, you did it, why are you messing this up? The problem with that is that the person you have the most control over is yourself. So the only person who you can completely fix the problem with the only person whose problems you can completely fix, that's what I'm trying to say, is your own. And everyone around you is going to be somewhat responsible for fixing their own problems. Even if you have to point it out and help them, ultimately, when one's mistake comes down to themselves figuring out how to fix it. Now, that brings me to questioning yourself. Always question yourself. And that's why this is a backwards question mark, the sign of humility. Because if you look in a mirror, it's the right way and you can see yourself, so it implies that you should question yourself. Now, why do you want to question yourself? Because the moment you think you are absolutely positive about something, you lose the ability to learn things associated with that piece of information. So, for instance, people at one point in time thought the world was flat and would not listen to anyone say it was different. And someone goes and sails around the entire planet, comes back and says, "Whoa, you know what? I just went around the entire planet. It's not flat at all, it's round." And that's why when you look at ships out in the ocean, it looks like they're falling off the edge. They're just going over the curve. And this explains so many different things. So many things come together. And that person who was willing to accept the new information just learned something huge about their universe, and it expanded it massively. Meanwhile, the person who is absolutely 100% positive that the Earth is flat just became worthless in terms of anything to do with the shape of the planet. They can't navigate anywhere near as well as someone who knows the Earth is round, and they're basically being left behind because of their own arrogance. So always question yourself and always be willing to question things you're pretty sure about. Now here's one of the problems that comes up a lot that prevents people from questioning themselves. Arrogant people will not question themselves, even if they're absolutely wrong, and often they will argue with you to the end. They will argue with you if your life depends on it, even if the fact that they're absolutely wrong is staring them in the face. They will always argue with you, and it's very easy to get sucked into that argument, especially when the arrogant type person is getting incensed and angry and insulting you. It's very easy to get sucked in and start insulting back and say, "No, my position is absolutely right." And right there, you just became the arrogant person. So even if you're stuck with an arrogant person, listen to their ideas. But often with arrogant people, you're going to find their ideas are just so be reasonable about it and explain why their position is incorrect. Like, "No, dude, hop in my boat. Let's go around the entire planet. I'll show you. It's totally round." If they're absolutely not willing to listen, you may have to make a decision where you decide if you want that type of person in your life. Now, in today's culture, people are supposed to show arrogance and confidence. They're supposed to show confidence in things they have no clue about, because that gets you more girls if you're into girls, or it gets you a promotion, or it gets you all these things that, you know, people say are good and you want. You'll get more money this way, and more possessions. You'll be able to control other people if you really assert yourself. And the problem with that culture is that you just end up with really stubborn, unintelligent people running things. And I'm sure many people are aware of how this goes. So it can be very difficult to make the decision to say, okay, I'm not being part of this arrogant world. And maybe you have to quit your job or leave a certain school or something like that. You know, it's important not to, totally sabotage your life in the process. You have to kind of plan ahead if you're going to make big life changes like that. Okay, so arrogant people will try to tell you that if you're not participating in their world, you'll starve to death, and you will have a difficult, impossible life, and you'll be dying all over the place, and you won't have clothes and all this stuff. And they'll try to make it very scary to leave that arrogant lifestyle. And that's why so many people stay in it and get sucked into it, even though they're miserable, because they think that's the only way to live, and you die otherwise. For me personally, I would consider myself already dead if I had to compromise myself that much for the rest of my life. So that happens to make the decision very easy for a person like me. But everyone has to make their own decision of how they want to live their life. Okay, another point. Mistakes are an excellent source of new ideas. So this kind of goes back to the guy who sailed around the Earth. Back when people thought that this one continent was everything, it was the whole world, then people would sail off and say, whoa, dude, there's a whole other continent over there, and it's huge, and there's all these Indians that we can attack. Never mind that part. That's not what this video is about. But people learned that their previous idea was wrong. It was a mistake to think that they were the only ones who lived on one continent. There weren't any people anywhere else. And every step of the way, we learned that there's other planets. And then we learned that our star isn't the only one. All those little points in the sky, those are all stars too. And every step of the way, people have to reassess what their previous ideas were. And there are two ways to deal with this. Well, I guess there's more, but I'm only going into two. You can be arrogant and say, no, the Earth is flat, and that's it. I'm not listening to this. Throw these people in jail. Or you can say, wow, every step of the way, every time we learn more things, we find out that the universe is 1 billion times bigger than we thought. And if you notice the pattern, today you can say, okay, the universe is huge, right? It's really, really huge. It's got all these galaxies, just tons of them all out there. And we're just this little tiny speck. But a lot of people think that they're, presuming the Big Bang theory is correct, a lot of people think that that's it. There's one Big Bang that created the universe. But why would it stop there? Why would there only be one Big Bang? Why wouldn't there be one over there and over there a couple gajillion light years? And why wouldn't they be all over the place? And then once we find out about all those Big Bangs, maybe we'll find out that that's just a little tiny speck of something even bigger. There's no reason to presume that a pattern that's been going for thousands of years will stop where we are. Always question yourself. There's always more to learn. There's an example I wanted to throw in here that comes up a lot. Two people are going to start dating, and they meet each other for the first time. What happens a lot of the time is that they start lying to each other about how much better they are than they really are. Now the problem there is that for the rest of the time these two people are together, every time they learn something new about each other, they're going to be disappointed. and it's just setting them up for constant disappointment throughout their lives. It's much better to just be yourself and not focus on lying and pretending you're better than you are. Instead, focus on making yourself better than you are. And when you think you have a limitation and you can't be any better, just try a little harder and see how much further you can go. And I guarantee that when you actually reach the limitation you can't push past, you will be amazed at how far out there it is.